Two. All right, what's up, everybody? Welcome. And in this video, we have a special guest. Her name is Megla, and she is a sourcing expert from India. So she's going to tell you all about the benefits of sourcing from India. If you are a FBA seller, India is on the up and coming. So we're all very excited to learn about this. And she's also the organizer of the Global Sources Summit in Hong Kong. So yeah, she's a expert in this stuff. And yeah, Megla, welcome. Thanks for doing this.
Hi, Riley. Thanks a lot for inviting me.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, super excited to do this.
All right, cool. Well, so if you're able to share your screen, you got some slides and a video and everything.
Yep, let me do that. Let me share my screen. Okay, there we go. So let me know if you can see my screen.
Okay? Yes, I can. I can see your screen. I can see the sourcing from India slide. It is full screen.
Okay.
So yeah, I think you're ready to go.
Cool. All right. So what I'm going to do over here is just give you an overview of how sourcing works in India, what kind of products you can source, why you should source from India, what are some differences between sourcing from India and China, and also some tips to source effectively, and then how to get started. And then we can also take some questions at the end of the presentation. So real quick, some background on myself first. So I've been working in the sourcing industry for almost 19 years. I worked in India, Philippines, China. I actually lived in China for almost 9 years. And I'm currently based in Singapore for the last 5 years. So most of my career, I worked with a company called Global Sources, which is a B2B sourcing platform. And I started working with e-commerce sellers about 3 years ago, organizing Global Sources Summit, which is a 3-day conference in Hong Kong for e-commerce sellers who want to source products from India. And then last year, I founded India Sourcing Trip, which is an 8-day guided trip for e-commerce sellers to India. And I'm an Amazon seller myself. So over the course of my career, I've produced hundreds of research reports on products that are manufactured in China, India, and other countries in Asia. I visited hundreds of factories, and I've also done sourcing myself. I used to run a sourcing agency with my husband when we lived in China. And I'm also a speaker at conferences. I mostly talk about sourcing, and I've done a lot of podcasts. I've attended lots of trade shows. So basically sourcing is my thing. That's what I really specialize in. Okay, so why source from India? First of all, the number one advantage I feel that you'll have when you source from India is that there are a ton of very unique products that you will not be able to find in other countries, specifically in China. Whereas in China, they really focus on a lot of the mass-produced stuff. So, like silicone baking mats, for example, and they produce things in very high volumes. In India, you'll find that there are a lot of handcrafted products, a lot of eco-friendly products, more specialized kind of products, and they're maybe not done in such high volumes, like not produced in the millions. You won't find a lot of factories that are pumping out millions of widgets every day, for example. Another thing I find is that a lot of these products are very attractive and eye-catching because India has a very rich history and culture of these crafts that have been really transferred from generation to generation. So, for example, the woodworking is very high quality. Taught by the previous generation, and they're carried on, with the artisans and all. They teach their kids how to do the craft, and that's how it's carried down generations. So that sort of thing you can't really find in other countries. Metalworking, again, for example, there's a lot of labor intensive tasks that are done in India for metalworks that a machine cannot really replicate. So that's something that's very unique about India. You'll find a lot of high quality handmade products, and they're not necessarily crafty products. So they're still very scalable. So you can order, thousands of them, and they're being exported to a lot of retailers and brands around the world. So it's not like a crafty kind of thing that's done in a workshop or at home. It's still scalable and large and commercial, but at the same time, it's got that feel of handicraft and handmade stuff. So that's one part of the export market. And then apart from that, there's a lot of other products that are manufactured, in large factories with automated machines, so leather and eco-friendly products. I'll get into that a little bit. But that's one of the advantages of India. You'll find these high quality, unique products that can also maybe command higher prices. And another thing that you'll find is that each state in India has specific indigenous styles that are not found in other countries. So for example, if you take fabrics, each state in India has a unique kind of fabric. Maybe the embroidery is different, the type of yarn that they use is different, maybe the way they blend different yarns is different, or the colors, or the embellishments. So you can find a very wide variety of styles in terms of textiles in India as well. Another big advantage that you'll find, and this is specifically very useful for e-commerce Amazon sellers, is that they'll do a very low MOQs. And this is specifically for handmade products. Maybe for textiles and garments, the MOQs would be higher. But typically for handmade products, the MOQs would be 200 to 500 pieces. And they'll even do a small trial order of 50 pieces for you. Of course, the prices may be slightly higher. And in terms of logistics and all, it might not be very profitable for you. But if you want to do a small test, for example, that's very feasible and doable from India. Whereas in China, if you go to the Canton Fair, they won't really talk to you if you say you want to order like 50 pieces. They'll just laugh it off. And I mean, you have to go to AliExpress or one of the other kind of wholesale websites to, or maybe go through a trading agent to get these small order quantities. So that I think is another advantage. Also, English speaking. So most of the suppliers that you deal with, they will speak in English, and there's less chance of miscommunication. Things don't get lost in translation. You don't need translators when you go there. Of course, in China, it's there are the sales staff, for example, speak English, and it's okay to communicate. In India, it's almost like their first language, because India has almost 22 regional languages, and each language is very distinct. It has its own script, and so English is actually the language that really allows Indians from various states to communicate with each other. So for example, I'm from North India. If I go to the South, I do not understand their language at all. I cannot read their language. So I will communicate to them in English. And so that's one of the reasons why English is very prevalent in India. And another advantage is all your contracts can be in English. And whereas in China, your contracts need to be bilingual in Chinese and English to be enforceable in court. In India, the entire legal system is in English. You'll find a lot of lawyers that speak English, and all the contracts and everything can be in English. I also find that typically the more export-focused suppliers have more respect for buyers' IP, which I find is not really the case in China. In China, I'm sure you guys know, I mean, if you've been sourcing from China for any number of years, you know that if you design your own product, it's just a matter of time before either your own supplier or some other supplier from China will just copy your product and throw it up on Amazon and, start competing with you. That does not happen often in India. I don't have a problem, because most of the manufacturers really, they still want to focus on B2B, and they think that that's their expertise. They don't have the marketing skills as such. They want to focus on the manufacturing aspect of their products. Of course, there are an increasing number of manufacturers that are selling directly on Amazon. In fact, Amazon itself is encouraging these exporters to list their products on Amazon.com and sell globally. When we were at the fair, at the Delhi fair in October last year, there were actually Amazon representatives going around the booths and asking these sellers to list their products on Amazon. But just talking to suppliers, they want to focus more on B2B and manufacturing and process larger orders rather than selling a couple of pieces every day B2C. That's still their focus, manufacturing. Also, just like you would in China, they'll put your logo on the design, they'll do customized designs. whatever you want to do, whatever you can do in China in terms of customization, all of that is offered in India as well. And as I was saying, most of them don't sell directly on Amazon yet, but there is an increasing number of suppliers or manufacturers that are selling on Amazon directly. Another advantage, of course, is the trade tariffs. So there are no tariffs currently on products made in India. And I think it's also very important nowadays to diversify your sourcing, because as we've learned in the last few years, with the trade war between the US and China previously, and now with COVID-19, you don't really want to put sourcing. You want to make sure that you're diversifying and sourcing from multiple countries, whether it's India, Vietnam, Bangladesh. There are a lot of other countries that you can source from. And a lot of importers are actually adopting a China +1 or a China +2 strategy, where the bulk of their products come from China, but they also source from other countries as a backup. And in fact, a lot of the garment manufacturers were doing that. We're doing this, for starting from, 8-10 years ago, because the production costs in China were increasing significantly. So they moved out a lot of the low-end garment production to countries like Bangladesh and India and Thailand, Sri Lanka, because garment production is quite labor intensive. So that's something that has been happening in the garments industry for a long time. And it's also going to happen in other industries moving forward. Okay, here I want to just quickly share a very quick video that we did when we were at the Delhi Fair, which is known as the Canton Fair of India. So if you want to watch the full video, this is the URL, bit.ly/Tim India. So this is Tim Jordan. I'm just going to share I'm just going to share the video here and just show you maybe a couple of minutes of it.
So it's really cool, not only, the proactivity that we mentioned with, eco-friendly materials, but also socially conscious manufacturing. And that is not something that's advertised much here. That's not something that I would have expected to have seen when I came to India, expecting walls, signs on the wall talking about, fair wage, fair trade practices and things like that. So I've been blown away. Another misconception that I have to say I had was I thought that the quality here was going to be probably subpar, because I know that this is not, I really thought of as a manufacturing hub, but in reality what's happening is like the quality here is on par with first world countries. And I guess what I mean is that the manufacturers are expecting to sell to first world countries. We go to China, if I walked into a shop like this one, and let me change my camera. If I walked into a shop like this in China, there's a lot of good products, there's a lot of good shops, but I couldn't consistently walk shop after shop after shop after shop with nothing but extremely high quality products. And no matter which way I turn, this stuff is just world-class, class act, like they are selling to first world countries. So the quality level that we're finding here in India, I'm just absolutely blown away. And then, like I said, add that, the quality of the products to the fair wage, fair trade, sustainable type stuff. It's just, man, it's awesome. I could not be any more thrilled to be here in India sourcing these products. What else, Megla?
I think the other thing is that they're so flexible with everything, whether it's price or, MOQs, like the other day there was a speaker who said there are no rules in India, everything is up for negotiation, right?
Yep.
So I think that's really good, for Amazon sellers. You can lower MOQs or lead times, or there's a lot of flexibility. It's not like China where they say, okay, 3,000 pieces or we're not talking to you.
And what's interesting is I'm spying right now on kind of another buyer group, but the number of high-quality retail store buyers here is ridiculous. Like, I can't tell you how many buyers I've met from Pier 1 Imports, and, Restoration Hardware was another one. We've met several buyers from Restoration Hardware that are here placing big orders. We're talking top-tier retailers. We're talking top-of-the-line quality, retailers that I think have been getting away with buying stuff here without the rest of the e-commerce world knowing. Like, I feel like I have stepped into some giant secret, especially when it comes to, like we said, the giftable home decor, like textiles, leathers, home goods, those items. I really feel like the world does not know that this great opportunities here. I mean, look at this. I've never been to a trade show, even in the States, that as far as the eye can see is just these massively nice, professional, just ridiculously beautiful booth after booth after booth. And the price is at least as cheap as China, from my experience. And like I said, the MOQs are lower. So,
okay, so I just wanted to share that video, and you can watch the rest of the video on the link. But yeah, I mean, there's a lot of misconception or preconceived notion available in India, but that's not really the case. Okay, so let me just continue. Yeah,
real quick,
go ahead.
So do you do those sourcing trips every year or multiple times a year, or?
Yeah, so it's every April and October to coincide with the fair that's held in Delhi.
Okay.
But we had to cancel, of course, this April. We couldn't do the trip, and we'll see if it happens in October. But otherwise, yeah, next April.
Okay, cool. Good to know.
Delhi fair, is that twice a year, just at the exact same time?
Sorry, Payman, I can't hear you very clearly.
Okay. Can you hear me now?
Yeah, do you want to come closer to the microphone? It seems like you're a bit muffled.
Okay. Anyway, is it better now? Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay, so the Delhi fair, is that also at the exact same time as the Canton fair twice a year?
So it's before phase 2 of the Canton Fair, and the way all of the fairs in Asia are organized is that they are sort of overlapping or at consecutive dates, so that buyers can jump around from one fair to the other. So the Delhi Fair is usually in the second week of October or April, and then phase 2 Canton Fair is usually in the third week, so it starts maybe, I think, 21st, 22nd. That's when it starts. And then there's Global Sources, Gifts and Home, which is from 27th, usually 27th April and 27th October. And then there's phase 3 of Canton Fair. So actually you can visit multiple shows. Like if you're sourcing, for example, home products, you can first go to Delhi, then go to Canton. Okay, so I'm just gonna,
Yeah, go ahead. Yep,
okay,
go ahead and continue.
Okay, so real quick, some differences with China. So whereas you'll find that a lot of the products, in China are automated, large-scale production. In India, they're typically the products that Amazon sellers would source are smaller scale, handcrafted, but at the same time, there are a lot of big factories as well, especially in textiles and garments that they're producing at a very large scale. And as I mentioned, language can be a barrier in China, but not in India. Logistics, some service providers or a lot of service providers are not familiar with FBA requirements when you're sourcing from India, whereas in China, that's not the case. However, I find that it's changing as more Amazon sellers are now sourcing from India. And we have a Facebook group actually where we have vetted a few service providers, quality control, logistics, sourcing agents. So we've kind of provided the community with all of these connections. One big disadvantage I see sourcing from India is that there are fewer product categories, whereas in China, you can of course source anything and everything. And I feel that no other country can currently compete with China when it comes to manufacturing and the number of products that are manufactured. For example, in India, you can't really source electronics or electrical products. They're not competitive. However, I see that changing. In fact, in the last couple of weeks itself, a lot of, the government in India has announced a lot of schemes to attract foreign investment in the country, in electronics specifically. And in fact, a lot of the Chinese mobile phone manufacturers are actually manufacturing products in India, but they're mostly for the domestic market, not for exports. So I do see that changing in the next few years. But as of now, electronics, OEM electronics products are not very competitive from India. Medical devices is another category that's growing very fast from India. Also, there's a lot of information available about how to source from China, but not much information available about how things work in India, which is why I have the Facebook group, and I wrote an ebook and everything, and trying to provide more content. But that, I think, is an advantage. If you are willing to, the entry level is, or the barrier to entry is higher when you're sourcing from India. So not everybody can do it, and that's an advantage. Yeah, that's what I just mentioned. Okay, let's talk about the products that you can source. So a lot of the categories are in the home decor and gift items. So, and specifically, a lot of the products are in materials that are naturally occurring. So metal, wood, ceramic, jute, cotton, glass, a lot of kitchenware, tableware, specifically in metal, ceramic, glass. There's a lot of furniture coming out, and it's mostly wooden furniture, some upholstered as well. Furnishings is another big category, cushion covers, rugs, and handloom products in the furnishings industry as well. Fashion accessories, there's a lot of costume jewelry, silver, sterling silver jewelry, diamonds, in case anyone's interested. India is one of the largest exporters of diamond jewelry and rock cut diamonds as well. Accessories such as scarves, belts, footwear, specifically leather footwear. And these can be safety shoes, for example, or dress shoes. There are some sandal manufacturers as well, but a lot of genuine leather products. Textiles and apparel, again, mostly the naturally occurring materials, but there is also polyester and acrylic kind of materials available. But typically, the strength that India has is in cotton. Organic cotton is a huge category that's growing really fast, and in fact, there are more GOTS certified manufacturers in India for organic cotton than there are in China. So this is a really fast growing category. In fact, there are a lot of like bed linen and furnishings in organic cotton that are being sold on Amazon and doing quite well nowadays. Leather is another great category. So there are leather jackets, shoes, bags, and very high quality leather. Eco-friendly products. So these can be things like organic cotton or biodegradable dinnerware made from sugarcane waste or made from areca palm leaves, those kinds of things. Superfoods is another emerging category. So things like tea, coffee, spices, things like, turmeric blends or ashwagandha, those kind of spices and herbs that are positioned as immunity boosting herbs. Those are quite popular. Another trend I see this year is blends. So a lot of people are blending various spices and marketing those blends as immunity boosting. For example, turmeric specifically is being, there's very high demand of turmeric in various products, blends, as well as things like tea and coffee. There's turmeric latte, that's quite popular. These are just some products that I am showing over here, just to give you an example. So cremation urns, pet products, wall art. I mean, these are just some examples of the metal products that are available. These are some eco-friendly products. So this is fabric, and this is a rug that's made from recycled PET bottles. So this is a photo I took at the fair, and this is how they actually make these rugs from plastic water bottles. Then there's a lot of jute products, so again, very biodegradable. There's this one factory that we featured in our virtual show recently that produces organic cotton, and the entire factory runs on solar panels. So they've really taken, being eco-friendly to the next level.
Oh,
and
that's really
again,
cool.
some more eco-friendly products. So these are disposable dinnerware made from sugarcane waste, and these are areca leaf disposable dinnerware as well. Some kitchen items. Again, wood, metal bar sets, kitchenware, some Jewish kind of products. I feel that a lot of Indian suppliers, they do well with mixed materials. So for example, the cutting boards, you'll find that, they use 2 or 3 materials even sometimes. So there'll be wood, ceramic, and maybe stone. So that's something that they really specialize in. Furnishings. So this is actually a very interesting company that we featured in the virtual show. And they make doormats made from coir. So coir is a material that's not really found elsewhere in the world. And it is basically a material that's made from coconut husk. Very biodegradable, natural, eco-friendly material. And it's not even available in all parts of India. It's just this certain state in the south, Kerala, where this is found. And they make really beautiful, high quality mats and in a large number of designs. And this is one that's mixed with, I think, rubber. The frame is kind of made of rubber. And this company is actually one of the largest suppliers to IKEA from Asia. So it's a huge company with a lot of investment. And it's a 50-year-old company. That's another thing that I find very interesting. A lot of these companies in India have a very rich history, and they have a very interesting backstory. And sometimes that can be used in your branding as well. that you're sourcing from a company, for example, that runs entirely on solar panels. So that was established, in 1920, and they started as a small workshop, and they have evolved and grown. Things like hand knotted carpets, that's again a specialty of India. These are in silk and other materials as well, and specifically in the north of India, in the state of Kashmir, silk carpets are very well known. There's a cotton bath mat from handloom products. This is a very interesting recycled fabric bath mat that or rug that I found. It's actually made from waste fabric that's collected from factories and other places. Again, very eco-friendly and using upcycled materials. Okay, some tips to important sourcing from India. Of course, they are also important when you source from China, but even more, I feel, from India. When you do develop a relationship with a supplier and you're on good terms, you'll get better payment terms. You'll get priority treatment when it comes to your delivery lead time. And I feel in China, many times the relationship is very transactional. Okay, here's your money and give me the products. In India, it's more relationship based, and you'll find that suppliers are casual. They'll talk to you about your families. They'll try to develop an informal kind of relationship with you. So, but at a business level, I mean, not not in a weird kind of way. Also, work with your supplier as a partner. I think Indian suppliers are very open to your suggestions. If you have a product that you want manufactured and you think they can do it in a better way in their factory, maybe make a slight change in the way that they're manufacturing their if possible, visit the factory. That really makes a huge difference. Even if you meet suppliers at the trade show, they will be more responsive to you after the trade show. If you approach suppliers online, they might not respond to your emails because a lot of these companies are small manufacturers. They're not very efficient in some cases, and they're not very good at managing all of the online inquiries. They prefer meeting buyers face to face, so that they, especially at trade shows, so they know that okay, this buyer is a serious buyer because they've taken the time and effort to come to a trade show. So this is really a serious buyer who may place an order. Okay, so similar to sourcing from China, you should not make any assumptions when you're sourcing from India because suppliers don't really like to say no. They may, and this is maybe an Asian thing, they don't want to lose face. So if you do ask if they can make a certain product, they'll say yes. And then even if they can't do it in-house, they'll try to figure out a way to do it because they want your business. So always try to understand what exactly their expertise is. What are the products that they can manufacture in-house, and what are the things that they cannot do to try and get the best product quality. Also be very detailed with your specifications, and this is of course normal sourcing practice regardless of where you're sourcing from, because there is no such thing as quality in sourcing. Quality is nothing but the adherence to specifications. That is what quality is described as when you're sourcing. And because what quality means to you in the US may be very different from what quality means to somebody in India or Africa, for example. So be very detailed with your specifications. Get everything confirmed in writing. Have a contract if possible. WhatsApp is very commonly used for communication, whereas it's WeChat in China. In India, it's WhatsApp. But get everything confirmed in an email. It's very important to vet your supplier, and this is something that we were talking about earlier. So there is a huge domestic market. So a lot of manufacturers really produce for the domestic market, but you want to make sure that you're dealing with an export-focused supplier that, first of all, has an export license, and that they're able to provide all of the documentation that you need. And specifically, if you're doing a product that requires some sort of certification, you want to make sure that the supplier has experience in your sourcing market, in your export market. Also, you want to make sure that the supplier specializes in that product. It is common for suppliers to make certain products in-house and then outsource other products. And specialization is usually by material. So if a supplier makes, let's say, metal products, they will be able to make any type of metal product. Or if they're doing wood, Of course, there are bigger suppliers that have different factories or separate factories for wood and metal, or separate facilities within the factory. But typically, suppliers specialize in one or the other, and then they outsource other products. Also, you want to source from the right factory size. If you're a small buyer, you don't want to source from a really big factory. They will not be able to meet your small MOQs. Everything is negotiable when you're sourcing from India, especially the price. But you don't want to start negotiating on the price right off the bat. I think as you're scaling, that's when you want to start talking about the price and negotiating it down. Also, you want to make sure that you have, even when you're sourcing, you want to make sure that you have your target price in mind, the retail price that you can sell that product at, and then work backwards to determine your sourcing price, and then give that target price to the supplier. Sometimes they will, or often they will ask you for a target price, and sometimes it's a good thing. But when you do give a target price, make sure that you're very clear about what is expected in that target price, because it happens in China and India as well, that they might, if your target price is very low, they might use substandard materials, or maybe use a thinner metal, for example, if to meet your MOQ. So just make sure that you're very clear about what is required. Also, price is not the only thing that you can negotiate. So there's payment terms, delivery lead times, packaging, certain functions can be added, features, MOQ. So suppliers are very, very open and flexible, especially if you're placing large orders. If you're placing small orders of 100 pieces, they won't be very flexible. But of course, as you scale and you place repeat orders, you'll find that they're quite flexible. Okay, so how to start sourcing from India? So the first thing that I tell people is just Google suppliers, because most of the websites are in English, and Google is not blocked in India like it is in China. So a lot of the websites are indexed. So just do a Google search, and more often the larger kind of companies will come up. But sometimes you'll also get a lot of trading companies, because some of the large established manufacturers don't have a very good online presence. So just be aware of that. But that's a good way to start, and at least you have the contact details of suppliers. Also, you can search for suppliers on marketplaces such as Alibaba, Global Sources, and IndiaMart. Now, Alibaba and Global Sources are the more export-focused directories. So what you need to do is, once you search for a product here, you need to go into the country filter and then search for suppliers in India. There are, of course, fewer suppliers from India on both of these websites, but at least you know that these suppliers are export-focused. Alibaba and Global Sources both have offices in India. In fact, I started working in Global Sources in India way back in the year 2000, and they had offices even before that. So they've been very active in the Indian market even before Alibaba, and they have a really good database of suppliers. IndiaMart is another supplier directory, and that is the local version of Alibaba Global Sources. The problem with IndiaMart is that it's very domestic focused. It has a lot of traders, wholesalers that are catering to the domestic market. And many times they actually import products from China to sell locally. So you may be able to find some manufacturers, some export-focused companies there, but just be very careful. If you're dealing with a company that has no idea of how exports work, you may not get the quality that you're looking for. So I would generally avoid IndiaMart as much as possible, and start with Alibaba Global Sources and look at the other sources as well. So export promotion councils, these are government organizations that are tasked to increase exports in certain categories. So for example, there's a cotton export promotion council, silk, handicraft. So you can just do a search on Google for these councils, look at their website. All the websites are in English. There's usually an email address over there or a phone number. You can contact them. Some of them even have exporter directories online. The information may not be up to date in the supplier directories. And maybe, it's a very long list of suppliers that include all of their members. So you'll have to sift through the supplier list to actually find the type of company that you're looking for. But at least you have a place to start, and at least you know that these are exporters. So that's a good thing. There are also a lot of sourcing agents that you can work with. And there are some sourcing agents that we have vetted. Now typically sourcing agents don't like to work for very small orders. So if you're just starting out, sometimes it just makes sense to go directly to the manufacturer and, you know, place a small test order. And then as you're scaling, you can involve a sourcing agent and ask them to be your, you know, eyes on the ground and coordinate with your supplier. Typically, sourcing agents charge between 5 to 10% of the order value, but as you scale, you can of course negotiate that down as well. Also, Delhi Fair, as I mentioned, that's the Canton Fair of India. There are about 4,000 export-focused manufacturers, and all of the exhibitors are actually online. So you can search for Delhi Fair exhibitors. This fair is organized by an organization called Export Promotion Council for Handicrafts, which is a government organization. So you can just search for EPCH Delhi Fair exhibitors, and you'll find the exhibitor list. Yeah, again, you'll have to sift through the exhibitor list and do a bit of research on each supplier to see if they fit your requirements, but at least you have a list to start with, and you know that these are exporters. Okay. There's some
I want to go back. Can you go back to the previous slide?
I've written will be given.
Oh.
This one?
Can you go back to the previous slide just before I forget?
Yeah.
About things that are negotiable. It mentions there negotiation on functions and features, so customizations.
Yeah.
So you kind of glossed over that, but I wanted to harp on that because one of my main things that I teach is doing customizations, adding unique functions and features to your products, because that's what I found over my years of Amazon selling. My most successful products are the ones that I added customizations and unique functions and features to. So I consider that a huge thing, having the supplier able to make customizations to your product and basically make your ideas come to life. If it's a simple idea, you be able to add that to further make yourself stand out. So just wanted to note that before I forget.
Yeah, absolutely.
And just to add to that, Megla, so in India, if you wanna make some extra customization on products, are they open to do so on smaller MOQs, or you have to have like MOQ at least 1,000 units before they even listen to it, making customization?
No, so for handcrafted products, MOQs can be 200 to 500. They will do customization for those smaller orders as well. Wow. But of course, you have to see if it is feasible for you, because if there is a mold involved, for example, you know, then it doesn't make sense to do such small quantities. But yeah, if it's something that they already have a mold for, maybe it's in their catalog and you want to make minor modifications, or maybe you just want to, it requires a minor adjustment to the mold, they're willing to do that for 200 to 500 pieces as well. Yeah. So I just wanted to quickly talk about a couple of things that a couple of services that I offer. So this is a virtual sourcing show that I had done last month, and I'm going to do another show next week, in fact. So this is a monthly thing that we're going to be doing. And what we do is basically we invite about 10 suppliers to do live webinars in our Facebook group and on the Facebook page. And we basically just ask them about their products. They can show their products, do demos. People can ask questions. So it's very interactive kind of format. And it's just a way for you guys to, you know, directly meet with suppliers. And we vet these suppliers before we bring them on. So I have two partners in Australia who are also Amazon sellers. They've been sourcing from India for a couple of years. They talk to the suppliers before we feature them, and, you know, we make sure that they are Amazon friendly and that they are manufacturers. We check their documents and all. So you can watch the two videos that we've done previously at these links over here. And then the next one is coming up on May 29th and May 30th. So this is just a little bit about India sourcing trip. I do this every April and October. I started doing it last year, but because of COVID, of course, we couldn't do it in April, and I'm not sure if we can do it in October, but yeah, still hoping that we can. But it's basically a sourcing, cultural, and learning guided tour, and it's targeted at e-commerce sellers. And we visit the Delhi Fair. So there are a couple of different aspects that we focus on. There's a conference that we host in India, first of all, where it's a full day conference where we invite various sourcing experts to talk about things like how to find and vet suppliers, negotiating, and we really do a deep dive into all the key aspects related to sourcing from India. Then of course we do, we visit the trade show on 3 days. And we also have some sort of masterminds and debrief sessions at the end of the trade show. And then we take people to Taj Mahal, which is one of the 7 wonders of the world. So we have a bit of culture. We also do a couple of factory visits, and we also get you to experience, some of the Indian culture. We have this cultural night, we call it Bollywood night, where you can dress up in Indian attire, and we have a live band that does, a live performance for everybody. Okay, so yeah, if you want more information about the trip, you can go to indiasourcingtrip.com. That's the URL, and get more information there. All right.
Thank you so much.
So, yeah.
Can you go back to the ebook page?
Okay, yeah, just 1 second.
Real quick. Really quickly.
Yeah. There.
There it
This
is.
one?
indiasourcingtrip.com/book. And that's your Facebook group.
Yeah.
Cool. Wanted to make sure.
Yeah, this is a Facebook group. So you can just search for Sourcing from India, Amazon FBA, and join the group, or this is the URL.
Mm-hmm.
I try to do live webinars in the group every week or every alternate week, just to try to teach. And there are a lot of resources available in the group itself. So there's, for example, sourcing agents and logistics service providers if you want to get started.
Okay. The same ebook
Awesome.
Tonight?
I'm sorry, what was that?
Is that the same ebook that you sent me earlier tonight?
Yes, correct, yeah.
Okay, so that I'm going to also be posting it in the group, guys, and also for anyone that just use the webinar landing page, you will get it also automatically as a gift after the end of this webinar. So
yes, correct.
Cool. So yeah, any other questions,
yes.
guys?
Somebody,
so yeah,
Megla, if you could repeat the organic cotton certification when you get a second.
Yeah, it's called GOTS, GOTS.
Okay.
What does it stand for? I forgot the full form of it, but that's what it's called, GOTS.
Thank you.
Yeah. Global Organic Textile Standard. Yeah.
Oh, nice.
Nice.
Yeah.
Since like the wooden stuff is handcrafted, like would that impact a lot in lead times? Since
yes.
Like,
yes, lead times can be longer. So first of all, things move a bit slow in India. That's something that you've got to expect. They're not as efficient as China. And maybe there are various reasons for that. One is I think they're smaller companies typically, so they're not that efficient. That's what I feel. And this is not a blanket statement for all suppliers, but especially the handcrafted ones, I feel. So when you expect, when you ask for samples and all, that might take a couple of weeks, the sampling process and all. You have to make sure that you're following up with them on a regular basis. And that happens in China as well, especially if you're a new buyer and if you're a smaller buyer. Of course, if IKEA reaches out to that supplier, they're going to respond like, yesterday. But because we are typically smaller, buyers, they will not prioritize us until we start placing repeat orders and we build a relationship with them. So typically as far as lead times are concerned, they can range from 30 days to up to 60 days for handcrafted products. Of course, it depends on the quantity, but they're very flexible in the sense that they don't have a lot of in-house workers. So a lot of the tasks are actually outsourced to artisans that are in clusters. And these clusters are basically, communities or towns or areas where artisans that specialize in a certain skill are based out of. Or maybe they come to a community center that's been organized by the government, and all the suppliers, they will send their products for the specialized tasks. For example, if there's some certain type of polishing that's required that's done by hand, So they'll do the casting and all, in-house, and then they'll send it out for that specific task to this cluster of artisans, and the artisans do it there, and then they send it back to the factory for finishing and packaging and everything.
Got it. And
So it's
and
quite scalable. Yeah.
And you said that it's really hard to get a hold of these factories, and you said emails. You said to follow with them a lot. What's the best way? Is it WhatsApp or is it emails? Or what's the best medium of communication?
So if you want to, it depends. I mean, if you're just searching for them on Alibaba Global Sources, you can contact them via those platforms, and have the communication there itself. Or if you're contacting them via their website, you can contact them via email. If there is a phone number available, then you can do a WhatsApp as well. So they respond fastest to WhatsApp nowadays.
Okay.
So if there is a WhatsApp number available or a phone number available, then definitely use WhatsApp.
Okay, thanks so much.
Yeah.
I had another question. For the customization, do a lot of suppliers rely on like a mold, a specific mold, a specific method that they do? My video cut out a little bit, so I didn't get to hear the part about customization too well, but could you go through it again? I guess my thinking is if I want to request specific customizations to a product, will they do it? Or is it more of a, this is what we have?
Definitely do customization, and that's what they prefer. So most of the products that they have in their catalog are more to demonstrate their capabilities and to show what's possible. But of course they do have ready molds for those products, and if you do want to do something fast, then it's you can just ask for something that's on their catalog and maybe make some minor modifications. Or you can, if you have more time, if you want to develop a product from scratch and have them do the mold, then definitely that's possible as well.
All right. And for whenever they ask for a target price, what do you recommend we say to them? Could you repeat that? Yep.
Yeah. So, I mean, what I would suggest is, first of all, you should see your retail price, like how much can you sell that product at, and then work backwards to see how much profit you want on that product, and what your sourcing price should be. I'm sure Payman and Riley, you cover this, because this is standard whether you're sourcing from China or India. You've got to make sure that you have enough margins and profits, and there are different approaches, and it also depends on the type of product and how much premium you can actually charge for the product. But yeah, I would always work backwards from the retail price that you can sell the product at, and then arrive at your sourcing price to make sure you have enough margin for profit and also for your marketing and everything else.
When it comes to packaging, for example, on a product, would you say the factory would provide that, or is it something that you seek separately from a different factory?
So yeah, packaging varies. So typically, if it's very simple packaging, I would say just work with the supplier directly, because they have standard packaging and they can print whatever you want on the packaging or make minor modifications. And they don't, I mean, some suppliers do it in-house, but the vast majority would outsource the packaging to a packaging specialist. But if you have something that is that needs to be customized, or maybe it's high-end packaging, like if you want some sort of inserts or foam or silk or whatever, it's a luxurious product where the packaging is super important, I would suggest working directly with a packaging supplier. And we do have a packaging supplier in our group as well that we met at the show. And they actually specialize in exports. And a lot of the members in our group have actually worked with them as well. So yeah, you work directly with them. You send them the die lines and the packaging size and everything. And I find that they are also very helpful in the sense that they will make suggestions to you on how you can reduce the size of the package, because often what happens is that we may not be aware of what are the various options available in the packaging to make sure that the product is secure and at the same time the packaging is not too big. So they will oftentimes, give you suggestions on, hey, why don't you make this change? And in fact, that really happened to one of the sellers in our group, where the packaging supplier was able to do that. In terms of packaging, what I really like is that there are a lot of eco-friendly options available as well. So jute, for example, is a very versatile material that is being used for a lot of packaging, nowadays. And you can work with, there are companies that specialize in jute packaging, eco-friendly packaging, that you can work with separately and then have them ship the packaging to your supplier.
Would you say that sourcing from India is newbie friendly for someone just starting on Amazon?
You do require patience. So it's a bit different from China, whereas in China, it's easier. The suppliers are more accessible because there's so many of them on Alibaba. You just, send in an inquiry and you'll probably get 10 suppliers responding to you, and, 8 of them may be trading companies. But yeah, it's more accessible. It's more FBA friendly. In India, you do need a bit of patience. Many times suppliers themselves won't do the shipment for you, so you have to work with a separate logistics service provider. And in fact, when you're sourcing from China, if as you scale, you should anyways do that. It doesn't make sense to have your supplier, manage your logistics for you, because the supplier is also going to a different freight forwarder. But yeah, when you're starting out, then it's easier to do things in China. They may not be that easy in India, but I think it's becoming. It's not that difficult as well. I mean, it's not rocket science. It's just that you need to find the right people. You need to know what products to source. You need to have the right information, and you just need a bit of patience.
And one thing I'd like to comment is that I found quite interesting and contrasting between China and India is that in China, if you're ordering anything and if the quantity is small, in fact, you may not even listen to you. You would have to go to a trading company. Whereas in India, from what I understand, is that if your order is too small, it's actually beneficial for you to contact directly the factory, whereas the trading company will not even talk to you unless you're talking about big numbers.
Yeah, the sourcing agent. Yeah, the sourcing agent may not talk to you. I mean, trading companies may. So trading companies are different from sourcing agents because trading companies may have some ready stock available, and and they may sell the product directly to you, whereas a sourcing agent will, get the product made from a factory on your behalf, and they will take a commission off your order. So I think sourcing agents and trading companies work slightly differently. But yeah, because many sourcing agents, I mean, they also have to spend a lot of time and effort finding the right supplier and communicating. And if you're just placing an order for, $2,000, their commission is very low. It's just 10% of that. And that doesn't even cover their costs. So that's the reason that they don't prefer working with smaller companies. Although the sourcing agents that we have in our group, we have, almost convinced them to work with smaller buyers as well. But yeah, I mean, they're a bit resistant. The other thing that I forgot to mention is that in India, many suppliers and sourcing agents have what is known as MOV, so minimum order value instead of MOQ. And what that means is that you can place an order of, say, 5,000 pieces, $5,000, and you can mix and match and have multiple, products within that order quantity, that order value. So that's something that you can also talk to the supplier about. And the advantage of that is that it allows you to test multiple products at the same time. So you don't necessarily have to buy 500 pieces of each product. Maybe you can buy, 50 pieces of 5 different products.
These products can be from different suppliers or from the same supplier?
No. So typically from the same supplier. Yeah, because this is mostly from, mostly the MOV is from the supplier. So it would be from the same supplier. Yeah.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
Are factories now back and running operational now in India now?
So India is still under partial lockdown, and what they've done is they've organized the entire country into 3 zones, red, yellow, and orange, depending on the severity and the number of cases. So factories in green zones are allowed to operate, but orange and red still have restrictions, and there are a lot of guidelines that they need to follow. specifically in the orange zones and even red zones. They have to have, like masks and temperature taking and all of those things. So, and the other issue is that a lot of the workers are not back yet, because a lot of the workers are migrant workers, similar to China, that come from their villages to work in these factories. So they had gone back, and they are not, back. They had gone back to their hometowns, and they're not back to the factories yet. So that is one issue. So supply chains are kind of disrupted right now. Things are moving slowly, but I find that a lot of the suppliers are, they're working from home, and this is a good time to start talking to them. And specifically, if you have a product that you want to have developed, now is a good time to start talking to them about that product and get things moving, so that when their factory opens up, you can straight away go into sampling.
Which type of products would you say fall into the green category right now?
So I'm not exactly sure, because it just changes, like every week it's changing. But the last that I saw, a lot of the factories and cities in the south were in the green zone, so they were opening up. But in the north, they're typically still in the orange or red zone. But you can just, you can always just Google, and the lists are available online as well for different cities.
I'm very anxious to get going, because I'm super excited. I want to get going with product as soon as possible. That's why I'm really keen on that.
Yeah. So things will move slowly, as of now, and it's a bit uncertain and unpredictable, of course. So just keep that in mind if you're sourcing right now. Another thing that's happening now is that there are a lot of these brick and mortar cancel orders. There's the inventory available at many suppliers, and these are brick and mortars like Walmart and the also a lot of the high-end specialty stores that actually source products from India. So, but they have had to cancel orders. A lot of the Christmas orders had to be canceled. So, and we mentioned this in the virtual show as well. And some suppliers do have ready stock available. Maybe they are semi-finished products, but they do have those products available that are that can be sourced by e-commerce sellers, because of course e-commerce is still growing, and even for Christmas, I think a lot of the shopping will be done online. So that's an opportunity for you guys.
Awesome.
Yep.
Who is the factory that runs on all solar that produces organic cotton stuff?
Okay, the company is called Go Green Textiles. Okay. And if you go to that link that I included there, let me just type it in here. The bit.ly link of the virtual show. I'm trying to think if they were featured on the first day or the second day. I can't remember. But just check both URLs, and you can see the company's contact details and the company's names in the post description. I think they were featured on the first day. So it's called Go Green Textiles. Just see which day they were featured on.
Yeah, that could be super valuable just for in your marketing, I feel like. Handmade plus the entire factory runs on solar. Yeah. That's like
oh, sorry, there's a typo in the URL. There's a typo in the URL. There shouldn't be a colon after bit.ly. Sorry. Just bit.ly. Yeah, so there are a couple of different ways to do that. Some people I know don't do inspections in India. I mean, they've developed a good relationship with the supplier, like Margaret and Kevin. Payman, you probably know them, right? They're from the India sourcing group. And they have been sourcing from India for 2 years from the same supplier, and the supplier does the QC. So they've built that trust with the supplier. But I would not recommend that, especially if it's a new supplier you're sourcing from. So if you're sourcing via a sourcing agent, then in many cases, they themselves will do the QC for you. That's included in the fee that you pay them. So you don't necessarily need a third-party agency. And you can also hire third-party agencies like Kima. That was Asia Inspection previously. So they also have operations in India. Or there are local inspection companies as well that you can hire. I personally recommend Kima because they are, a reputable company, and they have a lot of systems in place. And they can also help you with product checklists. So if you are new to a product category, sometimes you don't really know what needs to be tested or checked or inspected. But Kima has product checklists, product quality checklists that will really, help you, one, make your product specifications or just define your product specifications to the supplier, and also to know what exactly needs to be checked and what are the things that you need to be aware of in the product. You have to check the material, or if it's colored fabric, for example, you need to check the color fastness, and if it's a zipper, you need to make sure that the zipper doesn't, it's smooth and things like that. So it varies from product to product, but they usually have this checklist that you can use.
Yeah. What are the most common and preferred method of payment when it comes to paying suppliers in India?
Yeah, so for samples, you can use PayPal. But otherwise, typically, if it's a very large order, then, letter of credit and all those things are typically done by the really large ones. But it's usually bank transfer. So there's no Alibaba payment as such in India. In fact, Alibaba payments is not available outside of China in any other country as of now. There are some escrow services. So there's this company that I had interviewed in the group. It's called Trade Tango, and they offer an escrow type of service. But the thing is that you need to place the entire order on that platform. So you need to upload your, contracts and the specifications, and everything needs to be done on that platform. And then they will they will hold the payment from you, and they will show it to the supplier that, okay, I have this payment from this company. And then once the QC and everything is done, then they will release the payment to the supplier, similar to how Alibaba works. But then they also have a minimum order value of, I don't know, like $11,000, $12,000 or something like that. So it's good for bigger orders. You can consider that. But otherwise, mostly bank transfer. And, first of all, make sure that it's a legitimate company. That's number one. Because, India is a big country. There are, scammers out there, just like there are in any other country. So you have to be aware of that. Make sure that you're dealing with a legitimate company, first of all. Secondly, make sure it's an export-focused company. And then thirdly, don't make the full payment upfront. Make sure that you do a partial payment, and then the full payment is done only after you've done the inspection.
Are there any protection in case if things go wrong? And
Sorry, say that again.
Are there any protection in case they send the money and things don't go as expected, and there's some issues and whatever, like payment protection in case anything happens, or the product is not the quality to what you're expecting, and things like that to protect you in case?
So I couldn't get it very clearly because there's an airplane overhead and your sound is not very clear. But I think what you mean is like what happens when there's a dispute, right? Did you mean that? Like if there's a quality issue or something in the product? So it's the same as, you would have in China. So first of all, you need to make sure you have a good, solid contract. If you do have a signed contract, you can actually, and if it is a big value, if it's a big order, then you can actually litigate and have a lawyer send, the supplier a legal notice or something like that. And sometimes just the threat of, a court case will resolve that issue. There also, depending on the product, there are, in the export promotion councils, the various export promotion councils, there are dispute management departments that you can reach out to, and they will sometimes help negotiate or resolve the issue, and they will talk to the supplier directly. But of course, for something like that, you have to make sure that everything is written and everything is documented, and the supplier has clearly agreed to do something that they haven't done. If it's just in an email or a verbal conversation you had with them, and then you say that they didn't do it, it's not going to hold water. But you have to make sure that you have a solid contract. Then you can definitely get other parties involved to help you resolve the dispute. But many cases, the reason people lose money in most cases is when they are scammed. So if you are scammed by somebody that is not a legitimate supplier, then there's not much you can do because it's not a real person. So I was recently talking to somebody who was scammed by an agent in China. And that agent was actually scamming, they've scammed like not one, but multiple people of thousands of dollars, like 9,000, 15,000, 20,000. And that is like really scary. So that's something that you have to be very, very aware of. And typically, don't just go place orders with somebody you find in a Facebook group. That's not good business practice.
If we were to place orders from someone that we found through your group or whatever, they're more likely to be more trustworthy and more reliable and safer, right?
Yes. So what I've done is in my group, because when I started the group, people started asking for sourcing agents and everything. So then I decided, okay, let me myself go and vet these agents. So these are from people I know, and they have been referred by other people. And I know that they are real companies. I've met them in India. So there are 3 sourcing agents that we recommend in the group, and they specialize in different product categories. And we know that they are legitimate companies, and other group members have worked with them, so you're not going to be scammed. However, you need to work with them directly, and if there is a dispute, we don't really get involved. If you say that, oh, I had asked for them to deliver the order by whatever a certain date, but the delivery was late, and I've lost my money, whatever. If that sort of thing happens, we don't get involved at all. So it's totally up to you. You need to deal directly with the sourcing agents. But yeah, they are legitimate companies. They won't scam you. I can, guarantee that. But if there are any disputes or other issues, then, you still have to do your own due diligence and make sure that they are right for you,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And then there's also 2 logistics companies that we recommend. One is Unicargo. If you've been sourcing from China, maybe you have heard of Unicargo. So they are very FBA friendly, and they do shipments from India as well. And then the other one is Sea Air. And again, a lot of people in our group have worked with Sea Air and have got really good reviews. So yeah, just work with them.
Awesome. Thanks for the links. So yeah, we're at about an hour now. Obviously, if you guys want to get more information, check out her ebook and her Facebook group. And yeah, thank you so much for sharing this, Megla. That was awesome.
You're welcome.
Yeah,
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Cool. Yeah. I'm looking forward to the case study that you're planning to do.
Oh, yes. That's why I've been asking all these questions. I'm just itching to get going, start contacting suppliers. I've been watching some of your webinars where you showcase these suppliers. I actually love those. So you can actually see them, talk to them,
yeah,
the story, the position. Some of them, I was watching one where you said that company started like 50 years ago. Now they became so big that they opened a hospital in the city, and also now they the number 1 supplier for IKEA. So
yeah, that's the Coir factory.
Small little mom and pop shop to now big company. So I love watching those, and I highly recommend you guys as well to watch those. They're very entertaining, very informative, and also you can learn more about that, because sourcing from India is very exciting. As you said, there's a lot of opportunities to get very unique products that others do not have, that can really, if you want to set yourself apart, that's the perfect way to do it. Find something that people are doing, and for that, India is going to be a game changer for most people that get into that now, especially now, because I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, Megla, but the masses are still sourcing from China. Nothing wrong with sourcing from China, but I think we have a window of opportunity for the next 2 to 3 years, whereas where the masses will still not be so familiar or not willing or whatever to go to India, and that's going to allow us to get going products now, to establish a good foothold, and really make the most of it. So guys, don't sleep on that. Get a product from India. Even as you said, one of the beautiful things about India is that you can start with very small MOQs, 50 to 100 products, and then you can just test until you find one that really sticks, and that's a perfect way. I was watching one of your, I've been binge watching your webinars for the past few weeks, Regla, is that you were saying that for what you would spend for one order from China, you can spend, you can test maybe 5, 10, or 15 different products from India.
Yeah, yeah.
That's a much better way to do market research and really find not only one, but 2 or 3, you know, winning products.
Yeah, and of course it varies by, you know, product category. So for example, in textiles, that may not be, you know, you may not be able to test that many products because textiles usually they have minimums. But again, it varies. You know, in textiles, if they have fabric available, then they may be able to do small orders as well. But if they have to, you know, order the fabric from the mill and all, then the MOQs will be higher. But again, they're very flexible. And yeah, even for textile-based products, you can do a test with, you know, a fabric that's available, and then maybe do a more customized product later. So yeah.
Another major opportunity for India is that you mentioned something very important at the beginning of this call, is that in China, products are mass-produced using man-made materials, whereas in India, they're handmade using natural materials. So one way to really find winning products is look at what's really a top seller currently in China, product that's sourced in China, and 99% of the chances those products are made with either plastic, silicone, or other man-made material. Now go to India, contact a supplier, and see if you can make the same material, the same product, but with natural product, which will basically be like a premium version of it. For example, when I wrote a piece on that, I sent to you as well, Megla. For example, the dog collar example, the leather dog collar example in China is made with Q, which is fake leather. Whereas you go to India, you can get the same product made with genuine leather, and as a result of selling it on Amazon for $14 for the fake leather, and if you get it from India with genuine leather, I'm pretty sure you can sell it for $25, $29, even $29 very easily because the product is much higher quality.
Yeah.
Yeah, and maybe you won't get the same volumes. You know, that's another thing to consider. A lot of people may prefer just lower price products, but at least you have more margin over there. So it's maybe you're selling fewer products, but the margins are higher. And then if you have multiple SKUs like this, then the profits kind of add up. The other thing I like about these kinds of products is because they're not selling in the millions, you're kind of lying low and you're not being noticed by the hijackers, you know, from China, because they of course want the high volume products. So they're after the products that they can sell in the millions. But yeah, these are
exactly my next point, is that by doing so you can remain under the radar. Instead of having one winning product, and have 4 or 5 solid performing products that are doing lower volumes. But if you add them up together, they make as much, if not more, than just the winning. And by doing so, you also keep away all those Chinese copycats as well. So,
yeah,
exactly.
Yeah, totally agree.
Awesome. Yeah, buddy. So I got another call coming up here, so I got to run. Okay. Yeah, you guys can get more information from her ebook and Facebook group, and we'll be talking about it a little bit as well. But yeah, thanks again, Megla, for all the useful info.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Very much, Megla.
Okay.
Have a great
Bye.
one.